The aviation industry runs on absolute precision. Millions of moving parts, tight schedules, and fleet plans mapped out decades in advance. For years, one of Europe's biggest carriers had a very specific, comfortable timeline for its planes. Everything appeared completely normal, until suddenly severe external pressures forced a massive multi-million-pound pivot that literally nobody anticipated. How could a massive modern carrier completely rewrite its fleet strategy practically overnight? Welcome to Air Flight Space, the channel where we explore aviation events, air safety investigations, major industry developments, and the stories shaping our skies. Today, we're taking a closer look at EasyJet's sudden, highly strategic pivot. To give you some quick background, EasyJet has heavily relied on the Airbus A319. It's been the workhorse of their operations for years. But right now, heading into the first half of 2026, intense financial headwinds are forcing the airline's leadership to make a drastic change. And trust me, the entire aviation industry is paying very close attention.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is exactly where the story begins. At first, everything seemed normal. EasyJet originally had this comfortable, highly measured plan. The goal was to slowly, gently, phase out those older A319 aircraft by the year 2030. It was a standard, industry-expected timeline, the kind of plan that keeps investors sleeping well at night. But things were about to change. Today, the airline announced a completely new strategy, an accelerated exit. They are actually bringing the total retirement of the A319 fleet forward to September 2029. Now, on the surface, moving a deadline up by a year, it might just look like a minor scheduling tweak. But in the incredibly complex, high-stakes world of airline fleet management, pulling forward the retirement of dozens of commercial jets is a monumental shift. It's like trying to rebuild a race car while it's zooming down the track. Something major had to trigger this acceleration.
But what happened next shocked financial analysts and aviation insiders alike. We start seeing the first warning signs, and they hit with a massive, undeniable number. A staggering £552 million pre-tax loss. This isn't just a minor dip on a spreadsheet. This was EasyJet's deep, headline pre-tax loss for the 6 months leading up to March 31, 2026. To put that into perspective, at the exact same stage last year, the carrier lost £394 million. So we're talking about a massive year-over-year drop. It paints a picture of a winter season where the financial bleeding was significantly worse than anyone planned for when they set their medium-term targets. The pressure inside the boardroom was absolutely immense. They were backed into a corner and they needed a solution, fast.
Things were about to become even more surprising when investigators and analysts looked under the hood of those financial losses. Let's break down exactly what drove this massive £552 million hit. The escalation was caused by basically a perfect storm of three major factors. First, a sudden and painful spike in fuel prices, which immediately squeezed operating margins across their entire European network. Second, they had some heavy upfront investments related to the launch of brand new bases at Milan Linate and Rome Fiumicino airports. Building out hubs isn't cheap. And finally, the third factor, and this was something completely out of EasyJet's control: severe delays in receiving new aircraft from Airbus. At that moment, nobody expected what the leadership would do next. Faced with sky-high costs and delayed planes, honestly, many airlines would just shrink their network and wait it out. But EasyJet? They decided to go on the offensive.
And this detail changes the entire story. Enter the major reveal, a crucial airline strategy known as upgauging. Now, if you're not familiar, upgauging is the strategic process of replacing smaller, older aircraft with larger, newer, and vastly more efficient ones. By accelerating the retirement of the older A319s, EasyJet isn't just getting rid of planes, they are actively swapping them out for the much more capable A320 and A321neo families. So why does this matter so much? Because upgauging acts as a direct physical shield against those rising fuel costs and operational inefficiencies we just talked about. It allows the airline to carry more passengers on a single flight using modern engines that burn significantly less fuel. It is literally the ultimate unit cost-saving maneuver.
Now, what's really interesting is how this physically scales up in the real world. By accelerating the exit of the A319 and bringing in the Neo family, EasyJet is increasing the average seats per aircraft across its entire fleet from 182 seats up to 192 seats. Think about the real-world impact of that for a second. 10 extra seats on every single flight, multiplied by thousands of flights a week across Europe. That is pure incremental revenue added to the exact same flight path. You've got the exact same number of pilots in the cockpit, but you're burning less fuel per passenger. It's a brilliant, highly effective way to rapidly scale passenger capacity and fight back against those brutal winter losses. But the situation was far from over.
So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding exactly how fast this transition is going to happen over the next 3 years. According to Chief Financial Officer Yonder Ramamaker, the pace is aggressive. I mean, really aggressive. In the current financial year of 2026, they're taking 17 new A320neo family deliveries while retiring just 3 older aircraft. But look at the escalation in 2027 and 2028. In 2027, they take 30 new planes and retire 19. And by 2028, they step up to a massive 43 new deliveries while retiring 35 older aircraft. In fact, they are forcefully exiting an additional 6 aircraft in FY28 alone compared to their previous schedule, purely to accelerate this massive modernization effort.
Keep watching, because this next detail explains everything and reveals the true ambition of the airline. You might naturally assume that by rushing to retire so many older A319s, EasyJet is effectively downsizing its operations. But actually, the exact opposite is true. Their total fleet is projected to grow from 356 aircraft at the start of October 2025 up to a massive 389 aircraft by September 2028. Despite retiring planes faster than ever before in their history, their overall footprint in the sky is actually expanding significantly. They're replacing old, inefficient capacity with even more new, highly optimized capacity.
And this brilliantly illustrates how airline leadership has to adapt to survive in this industry. I want to read this quote from EasyJet's chief executive, Kenton Jarvis. He says, "The timeline for upgauging was moved to the right as a result of Airbus delays. These benefits are now becoming near-term opportunities as we accelerate A319 retirements and step up neo aircraft deliveries over the coming 2 years." What happened here is essentially a masterclass in crisis management. They took a wildly frustrating negative situation, Airbus failing to deliver planes on time, and completely flipped it. Once the supply chain started clearing up, they used those pent-up deliveries to completely overhaul their cost structure way ahead of schedule.
But the ultimate question remained, would this massive logistical headache actually pay off? The answer is a staggering £250 million. That is the projected incremental annual cost efficiency expected across the financial years 2027 and 2028. That's over $335 million, folks. By taking the intense pain of a £552 million loss today, completely reorganizing their bases, and forcing the older planes into early retirement, EasyJet is setting themselves up to claw back £250 million in pure operational savings in the near future. It is a high-stakes gamble on efficiency for sure, but one with a massive potential upside.
So what can we actually learn from this story? Well, we've seen how sudden external factors like fuel prices and supply chain delays can completely derail an airline's financial year. But we've also seen how a rigid adherence to the old way of doing things is a fast-track recipe for failure. EasyJet's bold decision to rapidly accelerate their A319 exit proves that in modern aviation, flexibility and ruthless efficiency are your only true defenses against uncertainty. But it leaves us with this final provocative question. Will upgauging be enough to navigate ongoing industry volatility and truly return EasyJet to peak profitability? Thanks for watching Airflight Space. If you enjoy aviation investigations, aviation news, aircraft analysis, and stories from the world of flight, make sure to subscribe. Leave a like if you learned something new today. And let us know in the comments, what are your thoughts on this situation? I read your comments and regularly interact with the Airflight Space community. See you in the next video.